indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board will now move on to public participation portion of the meeting. Dr. Andrews will begin with the superintendent report.
All right, good evening. So November 15th is recognized as School Board Members Day throughout the state of Illinois. The day honors the dedicated individuals who serve as unpaid volunteers, giving countless hours each month to support our students, staff, and community. Tonight, we'd like to extend our sincere appreciation for all of our board members and their continued commitment and service to the district. Thank you all very much. As a sign of our thanks, we'd like to present you guys with some candy. Candy, that's all they do.
Okay, that's great.
I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just what you want.
Yep. Yes.
Next, congratulations to Mrs. Shawn Stegler, who has been named the IESA Outstanding Speech Educator of the Year by the Illinois Elementary School Association. Mrs. Stegler is an English teacher here at Dunlap High School and also a speech team coach at Dunlap Middle School. So again, congratulations to Mrs. Stegler. Show her. Keeping the good news coming, congratulations to Mrs. Amelia Roberts, Assistant Principal at Dunlap High School, who was named the Central Illinois Valley Assistant Principal of the Year by the Illinois Principals Association. Congratulations, Mrs. Roberts. Just a very brief construction update. I know the board had received some information from Dr. Freeman previously on the training center, but committee work for Wild Ways, entering into conversations about new furniture, fixtures, and equipment has been underway. So Rachel has been scheduling those meetings virtually. Of course, DJ here is there as well to hear and offer their insight as well. So that is that for now. Just a reminder that fall break is next week. There will be no school next Wednesday through Friday, November 26th through the 28th. And just a quick update on the Hickory Grove power situation. Shortly before the board meeting started, the switchgear that was determined to be the issues why we couldn't turn the power back on. Once Ameren had restored power to the area has been replaced, we are going to need some additional supplies to completely finish everything, but we are at a point where we are up and safely able to be up and operational. So happy for that. Finally, our FOIA requests, there have been 2 FOIA requests since the October 15th meeting, and Mr. McKenzie has completed both those requests. Next, our athletic director, Jason Holmes, and Coach Monahan are here to recognize one of our student athletes.
We're super excited to introduce our new state champion. No, that just couldn't come up. Mom, Dad, he's here with Dad Luke, his mom Tiffany, grandma, and 2 brothers, and then Coach Monahan. Come on up. Give no one a round of applause. Yeah, he had a great year. He was obviously state champion in 2A, boys state golf. He was the Journal Star golfer of the year, boys golfer of the year. And we also had the girls golfer of the year, Sydney Hunt as well. So both of them they're both juniors. So again, both juniors and golfer of the year. Plus sports, boys golfer of the year. He was first team All-Mid-Ohio Conference and obviously state champion as well. And when he was at sectional, he finished second at the Macomb regional, and then tied for second at the Bloomington sectional, and then got hot at the right time at the state tournament. On Friday, he shot a 2-under, and then went to the clubhouse, tied for first, and then Saturday morning we shot a 3-under on Saturday, which gave him a 5-under in state championship that he well deserved. So again, Nolan, congratulations, buddy, on a great year, and something that can't take away from you, the state championship. Congratulations, Nolan. he headed into, he broke the course record at Arrowhead about a week prior to the Illini County tournament, 61. To break the course record, first thing he does goes and buys a new putter. So he takes a new putter to the conference tournament, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? And he walks into the regional, finishes second, what are you doing? And then he goes tied for second sectional, and then a week later, he did exactly what he's doing, state champion.
Love it.
Putter. Congratulations.
That's good stuff. That's great. That sounds good. Okay. At this time, we'll move on to public comments. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? If so, raise your hand. Okay, this concludes the public participation portion of the meeting. The board will now move on to information discussion items. We have a presentation from Jim Helton. Jim, if you want to come up and sit in the hot seat there, as it were. Jim is from the IASB. He's going to provide the board some information on the services offered by IASB for the upcoming superintendent search.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, Jim.
How are you? Jim? All right.
Teresa.
Teresa, all right. Andrew. Andrew? Yes, sir. All right. Make sure I don't.
Yeah, we've met. Good to see you, Jim.
Yes, sir. We have met. All right.
How you doing, Nick Hall?
Nick? All right. Very good. Very good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and just take one of the folders. My background, taught and coached in the I-80 corridor. So I was there for 17 years. Spent quite a bit of time in the classroom. And so enjoyed that teaching and learning piece. I spent half of my administration as a principal. So I was a pre-K3 principal and a junior high principal, middle school, in the southern part of the state. And then superintendent for 9 years at Waterloo CUSD 5. So as a unit district, about 3,000 students, Metro St. Louis area. Started working for ISB 10 years ago. So I retired 11 years ago, superintendent, ISB 10 years ago, and then 2 years ago, I needed to step into leadership for executive search department. So that's fulfilling that as well. We have Dr. Vic Zimmerman, another consultant that has been talking with Tom with regards to being part of the search potentially. We'd like to tell you what we do, have you have some questions, and so, all right, ready for this evening? All right. Yeah. I'm going to do this instead of that. I have the old coach's voice, it probably carries, so I think we'll be all right. And again, a little bit of introduction to myself. What we do, we are a market leader. We do more searches in the state of Illinois than anybody else. We have over 60 years of executive search experience, 300 years of our assigned consultant experience. So we've got a very veteran staff. We have a great network, reputation, and process allows us to attract a consistent, strong pool of candidates. Over the last several years, the pool has reduced a little bit, but it's very strong. And I think that that's one of the things that, by having, working with the School Board Association, we're able to continue our network. We'll go through that a little bit later. Your foundation, Krishna, is to employ a superintendent. And so, as you work with your outreach and training folks, in your governance training, as you know, so one of your principles, one of the most important pieces is for you to find that superintendent, hire that superintendent, and then work collaboratively. We're the only organization in Illinois whose primary goal is to serve Illinois boards of education. We have our policy. We have our outreach and training. We have our OGC. We have our governmental relations. And all of our departments support what we do. So we're not isolated. The good thing about being part of the School Board Association as well is we don't double dip in the fees. And so the fees that you pay to be part of our organization are reflected in our rate. And so we're not going to double dip in the fees. And so we've been highly successful keeping our fees down and keeping our service high. All right. This is our national outreach. We have an affiliation with the National Affiliation of Superintendent Searchers. There's 39 states throughout the United States made up of school board associations that also have searches. And so these school board associations, they are strong in policy, they are strong in best practice, they are strong in integrity, and we know the state laws. So having that alignment, if we have an out-of-state applicant, we go straight to them and say, what do you know about this applicant? So having that next level of just reference checking is really important to us. And the other piece of that then too is we collaborate one time a year. We'll get together in the summertime, collaboration. We rotate our chairmanship and leadership. And this year, Illinois is the chair, so I'm the chair of the national organization for this coming year. We're going to host the conference in Chicago. Where do we post? Where do we recruit? So we have extensive professional association activities and networking. The IASA, which is the Illinois Association of School Administrators and Superintendents Group. IASBO, which is the School Business Officials Group. IPA, Principals Association. And then we also have professional advancement seminars. So the Superintendents Association and us put on 3 seminars a year for aspiring superintendents. We'll do 2 in the Springfield area and 1 in the Lombard area. And so we'll just have a full day of networking, a full day of what it takes to be an application through our process. Gets them in front of us, gets us in front of them, and just expands that network. The other piece that we have is a nationwide National Affiliation of Superintendent Searchers. When we post a search, it will go to all of those 39 states. All right. In addition, some of those 39, but not all of them, are part of our Revelis application software. We have 17 states. That is, if an applicant fills out a profile with Revelis, it then goes to 17 states automatically. So having that outreach is just one piece that probably sets us apart from some of the other firms, search firms. So having that, I think that integrity piece of having that integrity piece of the network is incredibly important. We also have a 29-state COSWIC group. So we used to belong to the National Association of School Board. We now belong to the consortium of state school boards. We've been able to get a 29-state application portal from their website. And so if you go to the COSPA site, you're able to see all the 29 states and all the superintendent openings on that. We advertise and highlight that. Another piece of it that we have, those principals, superintendents, assistant superintendents, business officials, human resource folks, everybody that wants to be part of our network, and we highly recruit that. We have over 8,000 educational leaders, including some of the people who work at universities. Whenever we do posting, we'll send out an email. All right, and what's the posting on? And I can give you, I have a couple of examples of types of vacancy announcements. So large book format and smaller format. But these are examples of whenever we get a hire, whenever we post a position, it will blanket the 8,000 emails. And then whenever we update it, there'll be another 8,000 folks that'll go out. Whenever we have a deadline posting, they'll get another update. And so this vacancy brochure is one of the pieces that we work with the district to develop. And this is exclusive professional network that we have. Blankets this in electronic form. And so that digital form of your vacancy announcement will be distributed at least 4 times per year, or 4 times per search. In the piece that I gave you, you're also going to see within that first, there are the steps of the process. Our steps align with our calendar. Our steps of our process are basically, we have a proven pyramid step where we facilitate a search to meet the needs of the district. We will have a designated search coordinator that will be available for consultation. We will assist the Board of Education in establishing the timeline. This is a generic timeline based upon what I've had conversations with board presidents over. Right now, we have signed 2,2,700. And so this is typical to what some of the 27 searches is going. We're now doing the presentations, potentially board action. We've got 2 contracts already approved for 27 already. Board action potentially in December, January, and February, those surveys. What we also do is we have a 15 question survey that is tied to professional leadership standards, and that is an online survey, kind of a quantitative piece that we will survey the board, we will survey your staff, we will survey your parents, guardians, we will survey part of your community. You tell us who you want to be sent to. What we do is we have you force match 5 leadership traits. We will then take the data, find congruence, report out in an open session on what the ideal candidate traits that this district is looking for. There's other pieces of that can also be added. Do you want superintendent experience? Do you want principal experience? Do you want teacher experience? Those pieces can also be added to that online survey. But those online, the professional learning traits, professional learning standards are tied for each district. Every vacancy announcement that we put together is unique because of that. All right, it's basically what the district is telling us you're looking for. The other piece that we'll do, that's part of that ideal candidate profile. We can come into a district and also do focus group work. It works better if we target a couple of days. We work with the district to follow, let's say you want representatives from your elementary spoken to staff, representatives, parents from your middle schools. Same thing with high school. We will meet with those individuals. We can start as early as 7 in the morning, or actually 6 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. It doesn't make any difference. Our days are, we won't charge for extra mileage or anything like that. But basically what we'll do is add additional questions. What is ideal? What characteristics are you looking for your new superintendent? What's unique about Dunlap? All right. What do you do well? What are your challenges? So having those 4 additional questions, you have the quantitative piece with the online survey, having that qualitative piece where we sit, we listen in a non-biased way and collect data, and then we'll report out. This is what your group said. And we can probably do your district in a couple of days, I would think, if we align the groups really well. it's a waste of time to say we're going to have a community forum and whoever shows up will do that. It would be better to invite certain folks to a community forum, and then we can do that. And we can talk about that down the line a little bit. The other piece of it, we'll provide guidance on appropriate compensation package. We will announce and advertise the vacancy. Generally, if we do something, we'll get everything worked in the spring of the year, and then we'll hold it until that late June, July, when we'll post. And then we'll post, and we'll have probably at least a 4-week, 5-week posting at that point, with the full brochure and what you're looking for, and all of the timelines. By that time, we will have worked with the district to align our calendars to make sure that the board is ready for when the deadline comes, whenever we have round 1 interviews, round 2 interviews, etc. And that's what the next part of the timeline is. We could get the slate of candidates to the board in October. With there's another part of the package that we have is we have a practice interview potentially, where if the board is interested in that. Myself would guide the board as we would a final interview or the final applicant that we would show you, and then one of our consultants would interview as a candidate. Interview for the position. He would study the district and he would interview as a position. We would then brainstorm, we would talk about what we did well, what could be improved, and then you would be ready potentially for that first round of interviews with a slate of candidates. What we'll do again is there'll be at least 2, potentially 3 consultants involved with the Dunlap search. We take a look at what you quantitatively tell us and qualitatively tell us. What is and what we've advertised, that's what we sell whenever we network. And then whenever we screen, after we have a closing and we screen, individual consultants will screen based upon what you tell us. And then we'll get together and compare our notes with our dashboard and say, okay, which ones need additional conversation? And so we'll have additional conversations, pre-screen Zoom at that time with 10 to 12 folks, then to try to narrow it to that 6, 5. If you have internal candidates, we talk to the board about how you want to address the internal candidates. So all of those pieces, and every district's different. There's 850 some in the state of Illinois. 800, probably all 850 of them deal with internal different. All right, and so we're there to work for the board, work for you. At that time, like I said, we train boards in proper questions, what to do. We help you with round 1, help you with round 2. In round 2, there's another component that we find very successful, is basically having stakeholder groups, 1 or 2 groups, and it could be either heterogeneous or homogeneous. 20 folks, 30 folks that will meet your second round candidates. And basically how we'll do it is we'll set up a schedule, kind of a wagon wheel type approach where the board will interview a candidate, those focus groups or stakeholders will interview a candidate. But the way that we have feedback is we'll take your ideal candidate traits and they will rank each of the semifinalists based upon, in a Likert scale, based upon your quality, based upon how well they match what you're looking for. All right, we facilitate that as well. After that, we'll provide guidance and basically finalizing the contract and such for your superintendent, and then there'll be, if the district wants to conduct a site visit, we'll aid in that site visit for the finalists that you choose. And then hopefully we'll have a new superintendent hired by December. That way they can transition from wherever they are, and to be with you by that July of 27 timeframe. And probably one thing that really aids in what we do is we will have our outreach and training director meet with the board and the new superintendent within 6 months of their hire. And you will have a starting right workshop, goal setting, and getting the district going in the same direction with that whole leadership team. As we said, as per enrollment, your standard search is $9,400. If you want additional fees, the fees would add to that. If you wanted, for instance, we can talk about this in the future or at a future time. But if you want per day stakeholders on the front side, I suggested maybe 2 at this point. Would you want potentially a practice interview piece, and then the stakeholders at the end, and again, potentially a couple. And that would add to that $9,400 price. Why? We're responsible only to you. I mean, to be quite honestly, we have a high success rate. Over 91% of our superintendents placed in their position over the first contract or similar position. We have a statement of assurance. If something goes awry, we're not going to go anywhere. We're here with you. We also have a guarantee of service. 1 year guarantee. Should something happen in that 1 year, we will come back and repeat the search for you. We will do that. As we said, over 55 experience in Illinois. We've served in 85 different counties, 411. The follow-up training is incredibly important. As we said, that is free. Part of what we do, I think what we do well. The ISA, we partner with the Superintendent's Association. They have, for the first 3 years of a superintendent, they have a mentoring program. And so having that one-on-one mentoring for them is incredibly important. So we all are in this together. We want everybody to succeed. We would love to help Dunlap. Question. Went through it quickly, and I gave you some homework, so you have a lot. How many was on the board the last time superintendent was hired? No?
Just Teresa.
All right, very good.
I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
I'll make a comment. The timetable that you put up there, I know we're taking advantage of the fact that we know, it's a retirement, it's not someone leaving for a different job or something, so we're able to back into that, and you've obviously backed it up all the way to today, or this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I guess my question is the whatever that is, 20 months, or is that pretty typical, or do you think this
Like I
is
said,
gonna be quick or long?
Yeah. Well, I would say you're quick until this year. We've just signed 2 contracts for 27s already.
Okay.
They're asking the same questions. Are we quick? Are we? And it's like, well, I guess we're ready to go. I think quite honestly, if districts know there's a retirement and the superintendent is leaving, it gives time. You don't have to rush it. We can, what I think is a timeline that gives us a little bit of flexibility. If you want to lengthen a little bit, you can lengthen a little bit. If you want to do the surveys in February, we've got time to do them in February. I mean, schools are busy, and we understand that. And so from our standpoint, like I said, we've had 2 27 searches already. We've written RFPs for 2 more. So no, you're not early.
Okay. Questions for Jim?
How many times in the past has ISB been involved in Dunlap superintendent searches?
Pardon?
How many times in the past have you guys been involved with Dunlap superintendent?
I know we did the last one. Great question. Because I know Tom Leahy was in my role when District Attorney was hired. And I was one of the readers on the back side of it. So I know that we've had this one. I thought we had it twice. Does that sound about right?
Other questions for Jim?
That follow-up training is part of the package, part of the
Oh, yeah.
base package as
Yep,
well?
yeah. Follow-up training, quite honestly, is, I think, the icing on top of the cake. We talk about a proven pyramid, but really that's a star on top of the pyramid that kind of makes everything, I think, shine.
And so you had mentioned the numbers like 10 to 12 candidates first round interview, is that what you mentioned?
Generally, what we'll do is we will pre-screen about 10 to 12.
Okay.
We would generally recommend 5, 6, 7 candidates in that first round.
Okay.
I mean, give us a chance to, and then we have that expectation of confidentiality to get through the first round. Today, I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't be talking about it, but people were a little more open to applying for jobs, et cetera, and now they need to go back to where they are and continue to be successful. Right. So we have that expectation of confidentiality with that. Some folks I know, we don't show all the applicants, et cetera. I mean, that's what you hire us to do. And kind of narrow it down. We want to make sure we work with the district and reflect what you're looking for.
Yep. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, anyone else?
How many current ones do you have open right now?
We have 15. So, and we just, like I said, we just had our 15th, and then we had 2 more that were getting in their brochures around. And so it used to, before the fair wage law passed, we used to be able to post stuff without the full brochure. Now we can't. And so now we have to have the full language and the contract part of it. And so all of that benefits, et cetera, has to be part of the posting. And so it made us kind of do things a little bit differently as well. We can get a contract signed with the district, work on the back end, and it would go into our portal. But now it goes in as a upcoming vacancy. And so that's kind of how we are able to parse that a little bit. I think the law's good. I mean, and it's good and bad because, some folks will say, okay, I don't know if I can go to the district for that amount of money, and that's good. I think where in the past they might apply thinking that the salary might be such and such, but I think now, that the candidates that we've gotten since January 1 have been serious about the jobs that they're
Okay, Jim, thanks for your time. I'll get feedback from the board and we'll be in touch.
And there we go. I want to mess with the tax. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to do this one more handshake thing.
Okay.
I'm old school with that.
Sure, I like
All
that.
right. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Appreciate it.
You betcha. All right.
Safe travels back.
Yes.
Or up to Chicago.
Yeah, I think I'm going to JAC right now. So
Okay.
leave it alone.
Enjoy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Next one. Okay. Very good.
Okay. Information regarding the school activity accounts has been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? Information regarding an out-of-state baseball tournament has been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? I did get a question about this, it was sent to me and Dr. Dearman, so I'll just make mention that I did get that question, and this is very similar to the one that was handled last year. All but everything in terms of expense-wise, it's not a district thing. There might be some gas money involved, but otherwise it's out of state, so it requires our approval, but that's really the long and short of it. Next, Dr. Andrews will present information regarding the Illinois report card for 2025 school year. Dr. Andrews.
All right.
Lost.
Great. So at the end of each October, the Illinois State Board of Education releases the previous school year's report card metrics after they've finalized everything. So that embargo was lifted on the 24th. Communication was sent out to the community about that. Tonight I'm just going to talk very quickly about the summative designation calculation process, just so some of the metrics make sense. We will come back to that very quickly and talk about some proposed changes that will change how calculations are made moving forward. That is currently being finalized, as we will be submitting that shortly for final approval. We'll talk about the actual data from school year 25, and then an update on, for the district strategic plan, also the curriculum department plan, but very, very high level. First, the annual summative designations are outlined there, and as we'll be focusing on the designations that our buildings received, which were exemplary and commendable, which are the highest two. The chief difference between exemplary and commendable is that to be exemplary, you have to be in the highest top 10% of all schools, and that's a fixed number that they have. Again, we'll talk about that calculation here in a minute. You cannot have any underperforming student groups within that mix as well, and high schools have to have a graduation rate over 67%, which ours very much so was. We had another successful school year. We had 4 of our buildings earn exemplary status and 4 commendable. Dunlap Grade, Dunlap High School, Dunlap Middle, and Hickory Grove all earned exemplary status, and Banner, Ridgeview, Wildwood, and Valley earned commendable status, each having success in various ways when comparing it to previous school years. In terms of the calculation, this infographic breaks it down for elementary and middle schools, because those are grouped together, K-8, and then for high schools, they have their own metrics, some similar. The chief things that account for the largest amount when determining their overall summative score, they get a score out of 100, and that determines where their designation will be. But for elementary and middle schools, growth on the English language arts and math assessments, which are chiefly the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, but also it includes performance results from the Dynamic Learning Maps Alternative Assessment, also referred to as DLMAA. And at the high school, the largest is graduation. And they calculate that in both composites of 4-, 5-, and 6-year graduation rates. This is outlining just a couple of changes that have happened since last year that affected this year. For this year, for 25 school year, that was finalized in August, proficiency benchmarks were updated, which accounts for 7.5% for math, ELA, and then it also attributes for science for 5th, 8th, and 11th grade students, but it applies to the building overall. Previously, you had 5 performance levels with the IAR, and you had different terms of 4 different levels for ISA and SAT. SAT's levels were not used. Illinois had determined their own proficiency benchmarks and did not utilize the SATs. So Illinois had entered in for some time, and again, been updated over the summer. What the right size assessment profiles and performance levels benchmarks would look like, And so now across all the assessments, because the high school has gone back to the ACT, they have the same performance level names. And for the ACT, the state is utilizing the ACT's historical data in determining what would lead to a successful collegiate experience in earning at least a C or higher in college credit courses. All right, so this chart, if you click on it, it'll have historical data back to 2018 as well, but this just shows the metrics for 2025. There's a lot going on here. For each different indicator, there is the raw score, and then there is the weighted score. In terms of determining that summative score, which you see down here along the bottom, that is adding up all of your weighted scores. If you're curious as to how we got to that number, but each year your thresholds do change. So, but when taking a look at this across the board, of course, in buildings this individually, we do this at the district level, obviously as well, and then we work in concert to make sure that our work is complementing one another. But all of our buildings, in terms of proficiency, they earned above average proficiency when looking at scores. But just in terms of when comparatively looking at some buildings versus others, just noting that for math in particular, we have different things we're doing within the district. We have PD that we've entered into with ROE 53, that we have staff members that are attending that, and that will help inform some of our next steps for math programming, as well as a math program evaluation that we will be completing at the district level. So there'll be more information coming on that. But that whole complete program evaluation, those are things that you do. You can do that in two ways. You can either do what's called summative evaluation or formative. This will be summative in nature, so longer. It takes into account more longitudinal data, pulls in research, and then develops a plan about how we're going to target and improve programming. It gets, of course, the most important, stakeholder feedback. Science proficiency, just note that for the past several years, there have been several changes to the proficiency metrics. It's either been not reported, it's been just based on how many, the percentage of students that tested at 5th, 8th, and 11th grades, or it was using just starter proficiency levels that they had. Well, when they changed proficiency levels for ELA and math, they also did for science, and since the assessment they created, they now had historical data, they updated their benchmarks because they determined that their previous benchmarks were too high. So that's why you do see a dip there. You have a dip across the state with that. But we will continue to, as we do with our what's called the GBC work, evaluate our science priority standards. ISB also has released new practice information that's been available to staff members because the science test has changed quite a bit, and how the kids are assessed on their knowledge of those concepts and skills is a little bit different. So to make sure that the first time they're not seeing that way is the day of the test, they have some better resources available to districts. So we're excited for that. And then finally, chronic absenteeism. We'll talk a little bit more about that because we have seen some growth and improvement there. But in terms of what we are doing to target that and to increase our student attendance, we have expanded the Title I Student Service Support Specialist positions. We had that at Valley and partially at Ridgeview, but now we have dedicated positions at Valley, Ridgeview, and Wilderway, and Stacy Dolinsky at Valley also does spend some time to help support Dunlap Grade School as well. So lots of outreach to parents, speaking with students on homebound, connecting families with resources. It's made a tremendous difference. We'll talk about that in a second. Additionally, a new platform that we have been working on in the curriculum department. We'll be getting that out to staff that will allow us to monitor not only academic data in real time, but then also monitor student attendance with teachers, the administrators to be able to see that and see a whole complete profile with all students and also the school-wide. So we're excited for that. But again, to celebrate some of our success, again, all building proficiency performance are above average or expected performance levels. At math and ELA growth rates are within the typical range, with Dunlap Middle, Dunlap Grade, Hickory Grove, and Wilderway showing strong growth rate for math, and Middle, Valley, Hickory Grove, and Wilderway showing strong growth rate for Dunlap Grade, average math growth rate increased by 18.9% 93 percentile points, which was fantastic. They did phenomenal effort there. And Valley decreased chronic absenteeism in 1 year by just over their 7%, which is pretty fantastic. Valley also increased the English language learner proficiency performance by 27%. Also fabulous feat of making sure that we are helping our newer students in the district who are not proficient in English get to proficiency. If you are wanting to take a look, linked here, it's IllinoisReportCard.com, but direct links to the district report card, if you were to look at the presentation, which is on the board book, would take you right there. It has lots of the information I just presented, plus more in terms of financial data. It does break down assessment data into different demographics, subgroups. It has the whole entirety of the school profile there. Just to start talking about a little bit of historical data that we've always reported at this time, the ACT, SAT performance table has been updated. Again, last year we had returned back to the ACT after transitioning from the ACT to SAT in school year 2017. So just so you can see comparably there, from 2017 up to 2024, I have the concordance table calculation of what our ACT average was based on our SAT performance. They are not the same assessment whatsoever. Similar skills are being assessed in nature, but they're not complete apples to apples. So in terms of where our performance is, again, we've had another strong year, especially when we're taking a look at what our average is compared to the state average, which is approximately 18.5 across the state. So again, fantastic job by our high school students and staff members. All right, I said at the beginning that there are some changes to the performance, to this performance summative designation process for school districts for what we are realizing right now in school year 26. First, those summative designation ratings will change from what I talked about on the left, exemplary, commendable, targeted, to exemplary, commendable, approaching, developing, and comprehensive. And Illinois is proposing at this time that in the past, because about 70% of schools lived in the commendable state, they are really looking at the new commendable as commendable, approaching, developing. And you rank there based on some cut scores that we'll just briefly go over here in a second. So things have the chance to look a little bit different. Again, you had your academic and your school quality and student success indicators before for both elementary, K-8, and then high school. Now they have what are called, what they're saying are streamlined core and elevating indicators. So at the top here of this, the bottom right, proficiency data across math, ELA, and science will be one of the core indicators. Growth on those assessments will be another, and then the graduation rate for high school will be the third core indicator. Elevating indicators below Illinois, or English language progress is one that you used to do the ELP to be. Consistent attendance, which was chronic absenteeism, so now we're just flipping that, and we're not looking at the percent absent, but rather the percentage of students who were present for 90% of the school year. And then the climate survey participation as well. Your performance of that can't lower your building's designation, it can only raise it. That's elevating indicator. This just explains what those are and gives you what it used to be if that applied, and then a description of its redesign, and then what it replaced if that applied. Here are the cut scores, and really the biggest takeaway from this is for those core indicators, which then will help us determine what our overall building designations are, we will get that information much sooner. As different data came in throughout the summer for the past several years, have made my best educational guess, because again, that threshold score changes every year based on what your top 10%, because it didn't matter, it was just always your top 10% of all elementary schools and high schools. So that is good. So we'll always know where we're at there, so very helpful for that. This chart just shows on the left there, I said that before you had approximately 70% of Illinois schools living in the commendable summative designation, with the bottom 5 in comprehensive and intensive. On the right, for both K-8 schools and high schools, is based on their actual calculation of 2024 and 2025 data. That's the approximation of what spreads may look like moving forward. So again, before you had the majority of schools living in that commendable, now you might have some that are still within those commendable ratings, but just with the different So, and the whole intent of that is just to help schools have very specific conversations and approaches to the school improvement process. There are things that we do that's not uniform across the state, but all of our buildings, we have conversations at the district level, we have them with building administration, and building administration has those conversations with their building, with their district building leadership teams. And they, based on that, that's how they form what their goals and plans will be for the year. So that's not everywhere, but this is the state's way to try to provide some uniform support to districts. Previously, again, some historical performance that we had presented on was our STAR reading and math proficiency, just to see if we are seeing an improvement from fall to winter, because you do typically see a little bit of performance dip there based on what's called the summer slide, or what's referred to as the summer slide. So we always want to see that students are increasing proficiency based off that. STAR reading and math proficiency tests are given as our universal benchmark assessment that we are required to give. It helps us to identify students who might be in need of additional intervention and support, and target and help students there. So these are just charts there that are showing our fall to winter growth. Again, historically, we had started this back in 2019. This is just for continuity's sake. Moving forward, the new metrics, as long as there is no pushback, we'll probably change that differently and just present that information in a different way. This, before that was proficiency. This chart is showing the growth percentiles. So this is just your average growth of students across the district compared to their academic peers. So students who performed similarly 3 tests before the most recent test. And so we want to see, obviously, 99th percentile would be great for everybody, but we certainly want to see within the typical growth range or above. And we're seeing average range, the average ranges there being 55 SGB for both reading and math for the last school year. So that is good to see on our end. Here, and this is a little confusing because the completed for last year here is the second to last column. For AP historical performance, we had 364 students test and take 778 exams. 342 of those students had scores of 3+, and that's of the students who took it. So 93%, almost 94% of students receiving passing scores, which is a tremendous help when they get into college. And then finally, on the right, you just see the total number of AP students and the number of exams. The order is because we get those started here in the fall. So what scores and everything will look like, you'll see after the students test and weigh. And then finally, again, very brief, if you just remember from the strategic plan, their goal 2 actually has 2 goals that concern academics and achievements. The first is creating opportunities for students to explore college and career pathways. The second is utilizing stakeholder feedback and applicable data to create/revise curriculum, special education, and student services department plans. Dr. Hastings had previously this year presented on the progress that special ed had made. So we're going to talk about this shortly. For goal 2A, just note that we are continuing to have conversations and are getting as much information as we can about different ways that we can expand our CTE or career-ready opportunities for our students, and that includes talking with local entities that have offerings that would meet that need, as well as things we can do within our building as we currently see it before that we talk about more expensive options to meet that need. So eventually, Mrs. Caslett and I will present a little bit more on that, but just know we have that. If you have any questions about that, more than happy to share. You have another spreadsheet with you, but we have that to monitor that. And then for our department plan, so how we came to the curriculum department plan, we developed a comprehensive survey and worked with our elementary, middle, and high school curriculum councils to make sure that they felt like that was going to capture and give us the information we needed to inform our next steps for how we improve our curricular programming, as well as some human resources things that were on there too. Overall, we had 190 responses from all relative classifications. With those curriculum councils, we comb through the feedback to determine our priority items, and then also talk about phrasing as how we would word those goals. And then additional stakeholder feedback from families will come with future work of our curriculum department plan. We are currently within the third iteration of that plan. If you were to click on the bottom image here, it would actually take you to it so you can read those in depth. They are separated by level. You'll see that the current year is pretty top heavy, but that's all of our feedback and the goals that we had prioritized with the curriculum councils at the end of last school year. And then as we are meeting and targeting those things and determine what our next steps might be, we'll then fan out those additional indicators and place those into the next 2 school years. So that's the process and where we're at with that. I like to have a plan on the page, be clear about where we're going and why. So that's why I do it. Any questions about that? Yes.
If you go back to the AP slide,
Yeah.
does the increase in the amount of AP students correlate to the population of the high school? Because it looks like it's going up 10, 11, 12% every year.
Yep, that plus increasing our AP offerings over the years has significantly increased that. We have, as teachers, talk with students about their courses, as they do every year, and encourage students to take it. I always did with my AP class that I taught. You shouldn't have to be in honors. If you feel like you want exposure to the goals or to the goals of the program and to the skills that would be helpful in college, I encourage them to take it. Teachers do too. So selling the courses, the increase to that, in our increase to enrollment certainly is adding.
But it doesn't, but that isn't, unless I misunderstood Teresa, I mean, that doesn't tie, it's not a one-to-one, I mean, it's the sales aspect, or it's the identification of more students being interested or something. That doesn't tie to the growth of the district. It's not growing by 10% year over year.
We've also, like with our course, the ones that we've added, we've also expanded, so like sophomores, there are more that like sophomores can take
Okay.
now.
That makes
So
sense.
that probably, that would
Yeah.
definitely add to that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I mean, there's a lot there, so we're gonna reserve the right to ask you questions after we have time to study it, Matt.
You know, I like to talk, absolutely.
Gee, there's
Saw the
tons of data.
chronic absenteeism
Yes.
improvement. That was good to see. Do you see, it's obviously, over 7% improvement at Valley. Have you seen that? Are we seeing that district-wide too? I know it was an issue like coming out of COVID.
We continue to have a healthy percentage of students who do miss over 10 days or 10% of the year for various reasons, whether it's for travel or for other circumstances. It does happen. Otherwise, if you look at the historical data, it's about stable. But having individuals in those positions that are Title I buildings, where typically that has been higher, has been extremely helpful. And I'm hopeful that we'll see the same Dunlap grade this year while they're waiting for this year.
Great, good work.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Information regarding the Dunlap High School course selection guide has been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? No discussion. No one's commenting on that. Okay, information proposed revisions. It's not a sentence, Miranda. Information regarding proposed revisions to policy 410 has been included in the board packet, and Dr. Andrews will present information regarding these proposed revisions.
Yeah, I can quickly put that up.
Quickly, we've fallen for that before.
But for policy 410 just outlines fiscal and business management for the district. It doesn't currently have in there about how the board assesses fees and approves those annually. So what this does is just formalizes that. And it outlines what those fees are. So for these first 2 sections there, that is almost verbatim taken from the Illinois School Code. It's what those school fees mean. The collection of fees section is just explaining the process of how we otherwise work to collect those fees. So initial registration, parents have the ability to pay online with a credit card or the option to pay with cash or check and submit that to the respective agents of the building that would collect that. And then from there, if the fees are not collected, we do continue to reach out to families and ask to collect with an invoice of an itemized invoice of what those fees are, and we do provide them information about what's in policy 4140, which outlines not only what is available to free and reduced lunch families, and as well as the option for a fee waiver for families that may not necessarily qualify for free or reduced lunch, but otherwise experiencing financial hardship and need to be excused from paying those fees. So at each of those junctures, we remind them of that. As the information item had outlined in anticipation for this, we currently have just approximately $140,000 worth of uncollected school fees. And so this is just trying to formalize the process of how we go about collecting those unpaid fees. An application that our district registrar, Kim Wolfpool, had sought out, and we are currently working to get in all of our buildings, but she started here at the high school to pilot to make sure it was everything it said it was going to be. They've been very successful in collecting. So it was quite a bit of money right away. So the high school's figure, just go back to that table that breaks down the fees. The high school's figure looks substantially larger than the other buildings, not only because there are more students, but because fee balances travel with students as they come up to the high school. So that's why the fee balance at the high school looks much larger, because you might have uncollected fees for several years. But everyone is attempting to do that. So the proposed collection of unpaid fees process would be, of course, us working with families to the extent possible. But if we are not getting any sort of communication and are not able to enter into payment agreements with families, then looking at least having the option to sending those unpaid fee balances to a collection agency, and then after there, if we're still not getting progress there, the potential there for going to file to a small claims court to file suit.
Okay. Do you have, I don't need it now, but do you have aging to that?
What's that?
Do you have an aging chart, like to that 142? I mean, do you know how old some of those dollars are? Or
No. But we could figure.
I mean, when say a kid graduates.
Yeah.
I mean, do they fall off of this, or, so this is just, these are only active students. There could have been some dollars that fell off with the most recent class that got away,
Yeah.
so to speak.
The district can't withhold graduation.
I know that, but their debt has been historically just absolved at the point of graduation. Okay. Yeah, and we had a minute to talk about this. I don't even remember when that was, but it was like last week or something. I had a question about it, and the district is willing to work with anyone that's interested in settling this up with payment plans or whatever. Just we don't want it to just be gone. And so as much as you don't want to, throw around the term or have it discussed, collection agency or this sort of thing, I think it's wholly appropriate. And I don't like the idea that you can just be neglectful of it until your kid graduates or is no longer in the district, and then somehow you got away with it. I mean, that doesn't seem right to me for those that are paying. So, I mean, if collection is the way we have to go, I don't like at all the idea of the small claims court business. I think that sounds like a lot of time and energy and resources. But I think the collection agency gets it to the same. Again, I'm not a proponent of using them, but I don't know what else you would do.
As written, the language would just give the district the option. So
Yeah.
it's not that would be 180 days, we're going to file that paper.
Yeah. Okay. Questions for Dr. Andrews?
Dr. Andrews, what's the highest amount? Are these parents that continually do not pay? So like every year it just continues? I mean, is it in the thousands for some?
You could be, yes.
Yeah, we
For
have a few with the high school that are thousands.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
Interesting. Thank you.
Is there some kind of a waiver for those who have financial hardship?
Yes.
They just have to apply for it.
Absolutely. So when our office staff members will send out their invoices, they remind them of, or
tell them that a payment plan is an option, as well as link the waiver. I mean, that would be all formalized here with this process too. But we'll have uniform letters and everything once we know what our new process is.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Doctor. Next, Mr. McKenzie will present information regarding the 2025 tax levy. Thanks, Mike. Is there any discussion? Yeah, try that.
Well, it's gonna be quick, but not that quick.
Okay.
All right, every year we have to do a little presentation in November for the property taxes. I like to start off by reminding people the term, especially new board members. What we're talking about is the levy. We ask for a amount of tax revenue. That's what we ask for. We ask for an amount, not the rate. The rate is finally set by the county. The AAV is set by the county. The tax rate is set by the county. And then when they do all that, the extension is the amount of tax that we're actually going to receive. But we're actually asking for a dollar amount for this county to levy. And what the first step is tonight, we're doing our levy presentation. It has to be 20 days before the adoption of the levy. Because it's, what I'm recommending is over 105% of last year's, we have to do a truth in taxation hearing. So we have to publicize that. It has to be on our website 30 days before the hearing, so it's been up since last week. And then we have to publish a notice in the newspaper, which is scheduled to be on December 4th. It has to be 7 to 14 days before the actual hearing, which is at the next board meeting on 12/17. I'll ask you to approve it on 12/17, and then I have to file it with the county clerk the last Tuesday of December, by the last Tuesday of December. Usually I file it the day after we pass it, so I'd be filing on the 18th, just to be sure that they get it in plenty of time. They always call me if we're getting close, but still. Process I follow, I talk to the county assessor about what they're estimating our taxes are going to be. I do it every year. They're usually pretty accurate in August. They said 7% in August. I talked to them last week. They're still saying 7% is what they're estimating. There's still several large tax challenges that are running through the system, so it might be a little different from that, but they're still expecting 7%. There's one large one that could change that down by 6.9% or something like that. So it's not going to, it still should be near that 7%. Then through the budgeting process and through this October, November period, I start looking at different projections and try to figure out how much we need based on the EAV. And then eventually I take the information to you. This is last year's tax levy for reference. And where I mean that we asked for a dollar amount, we asked last year for the yellow dollar amount. Because our max rate in certain things, like for top line, our max rate is 2.7%. By law right now, our limit is 2.7%. It's 2.7 unless we go out to a referendum to raise that. But so we can only get 2.7%. Well, I want it to be at 2.7% because we're, to keep that level. So I have to ask for a little bit more than I'm expecting to get. So last year we asked for $28,900,000. Well, based on the final EAV, which isn't set till March, and we're doing this in November, that would have resulted in a rate of 2.74424. We can only do 2.7. So the actual extension was 28,432. 28,432,000. That's the exact actual amount we're receiving this year for the levy that actually happened. So we asked for what's in the yellow, expecting to get what's in the green. And so our final tax rate in the bottom right cell is 4.43624. That was the final tax rate last year. And it's a little strange because you have to ask for a little bit more than you expect to get so that you can capture that max rate. And the ones, there's most of them are have a max rate. The only ones that aren't are tort, IMRF, and Social Security, and bonds. Bonds we can issue at whatever we've been approved to issue. So anyway, so that's our last year. We got 4.43, even though what we asked for would have amounted to 4.49 because of those limiting rates. We asked for more, knowing that we're going to get the lesser amount. So this year, what I'm recommending is on this sheet. There's the middle column, the middle two columns there are 7% and 9%. We're expecting to get 7%, but I'm basing the levy on what if they're wrong and we're going to get a little bit more than that. We still want it to be 2.7 final rate for education and all those max rates. So I'm basing the levy based on what if it increases more than 7%. So I'm going to ask for 9%, knowing we're more likely to get the 7%. We're almost certain to get the 7%, but we're asking for the higher one. So that comes up with the proposed levy of, in the yellow, the total is $50,781,700, which would come up with a final tax rate, assuming a 7% increase to 4.434467. Won't be exactly that. I don't know the final EAB, and I won't know that until March. Compare that to the last slide, it was 4.43624. I'm expecting it to be virtually the same, maybe even a little bit down from last year, if it is 7%. So that is what we will be asking for you to approve in December. And I'll talk to the county and make sure that we're still on board with it. One of the requirements of this meeting is I have to disclose to you our cash balances. We always talk about what money did we have as of June 30th. This is the amount we had in each of our funds as of June 30th. So we had $23 million in cash and $33 million in investments. The reason we have $3 million in the small print I put down there, we get $21 million from the county for our first tax assessment on June 20th. So on June 30th, we had $23 million in the bank. So that $33 million is really what I consider the money we had invested, as of the end of the year. But we just happened to get, a week before that, we get a big chunk of money, which is we need to pay the fall payrolls and stuff. So that is just where we were as of June 30th. This is a new requirement, came out last year, but fund balances can only be, by state law, 2.5 times your expenses. Not really an issue downstate, must be an issue up in the county, suburbs, but I don't know any school district that is anywhere near that. But if you add up you take our expenses over the last 3 years and average them for the operating expenses, education, operations and maintenance, and transportation. That's for all the things we do here. Those are our operating funds. And then you look at our cash reserve balances, which track back to the previous page. We had a ratio of 0.683, which means we have 0.683. I don't know how that translates to days, but we always say we want to have 180 days of fund balance. Well, 180 days this would be a 0.5, and this is a 0.683. So we have a healthy fund balance, but we certainly are not overfunded or anything by this law. But this is a requirement of the tax law now, just because I think some school districts have such large balances. Anyway, another thing we'll be asking you to do next month is abate taxes on on one of our bonds, which we are paying for out of county school facility sales tax. The Valley, when we expanded the Valley several years ago, we sold bonds that we're now paying out of county school facility sales tax. We're not having the county levy the money for us, we're paying it out of the other fund. So we have to tell the county formally not to levy for that, and that's what this abatement is about. We ask them, it's a December thing, every December until those bonds are sold off, or paid off here in like 3 years, we'll be doing this process. And so we use about $1 million a year of our sales tax money to pay those bonds. So, and we get about $2 million this year. We're expecting about $2 million. So half of it's going to pay that bond. So anyway, that's all I have formally. If you have any questions.
Questions from Mike?
All right.
Okay.
As always, if you think of anything before next month, please let me know.
Okay, this concludes the information discussion items. The board will now move on to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion regarding items on the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Andrew, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Nick. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Feldman,
Aye.
Hall,
Aye.
Holzhauser,
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Lutheran.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. The time is 7:16. Board will now move on to action items. The bill list, treasurer's report, and district investment report are included in the board packet. Could I have a motion to approve payment of the bills? Bless you. I'll move to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $11,716,666.44. Is there a second?
Also here.
Second, Yusuf, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Hall,
Aye.
Holzhauser,
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Lutheran,
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye. Motion carries. Information regarding the 2026-2027 school calendar has been included in the board packet. Can I have a motion to approve the 2026-2027 school calendar?
I move to approve the 2026-2027 school calendar as presented.
Okay, Andrew, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Nick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. That's 7:18. Information regarding the resolution providing for the issue and sale of not to exceed $62,750,000 of funding bonds of the district and for the levy of taxes to repay the bonds has been included in the board packet. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I move to approve the resolution as presented.
Okay, Nick, is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Andrew? Discussion.
Yeah, I got a couple comments here, maybe a request. So Mike and I had a conversation a short time ago about the 18 million that's planning to be refinanced to get to that number of 6275.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me back up just a second, Nick, for those listening or watching at home. So we've been talking about the 44 million or whatever the number is for the Wilder Way. And what this is we have currently outstanding some bonds in the 2014A and 2020 bonds is what they've been referred to me anyway as. And these would be extending those bonds some 3 and 8 years out respectively in order to maintain the same tax rate. So in lieu of having to increase taxes or go to the public about taxes. We've envisioned being able to push those out, and with that, again, refinancing them, so that you'd have to take those, refinance them, add that to that 44, and that's how you come up with the 62,750. So maybe with that as the backdrop, you can continue, Nick, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So, for the sake of my being more informed on this, and if it's to the benefit of any of my fellow board members, Mike, I'm wondering maybe if you could give us a little bit of insight to how the decision came to in terms of the refinancing versus perhaps other options that maybe were either considered or might be considered.
Yeah. Dr. Dearman and I, dealt with this, and he can speak to it, of course, also. But what we do is, when we do these kind of things, we have bond counsel that we use, and we talk to them about different scenarios. And we could have just issued the bonds, the new bonds, 44 million. And because of this new law, which is what we were using to build the new school, we had to do it in 2 steps. That's why there's an extra step in here. So we could have issued originally just the 44 million, and we talked about doing that. The problem with that is, for the next 5 years, we still have these old bonds sitting there, then they would be paid off. So we could have just issued new 44 million, just paid interest for the first 5 years, and then, paid off in the next 15 years, 20 years total, the rest of the bonds. And that was one of the options we talked about. The problem with that is you're going to have a spike of the property tax. I don't remember the amount, but it would go up a little bit. Because we have that extra interest piece on top that we aren't planning right now. And so the other option was to refinance these 2 bonds, stretch out the payments a little bit on them. So so you have that, and then when you layer on these new bonds, there would be no expected increase in property taxes. And so it's a normal thing to do whenever you issue bonds like this. You start looking at the different possibilities. We like to smooth things out. It's easier for taxpayers to expect, in the future that their rates are going to be about the same. And so that's what we try to do. And so perfectly normal to do this. And so that's what. And I know it was mentioned at one point in a meeting, but I think it just got mentioned as an aside, as being no big deal. And so, because it is kind of a normal thing. So that was what we talked about. Those are the 2 main scenarios we're talking about. We try and keep the property tax rate the same, or are we willing to accept a little bit of a bump for 5 years, so that then it would be a little lower after that. I know there's been a little great, especially, there's been, everybody wants it to be about the same, because people, especially public, do not like variation in that, if we can avoid it. So we don't like the variation. But anyway, so that's what the final analysis of how we decided to do it this way. And like I said, this has been kind of going back and forth for over a year and a half, so I don't remember exactly when we talked about it and this was said, but it's always kind of been the plan, because we want to maintain the property tax as close to the same as possible.
And so we don't have like a theoretical number anyway, if we were to say, pay for pay off the current bonds and project that out.
I don't have it right with me, no. I mean, I was asked about this right before I came over here, so I didn't have time to.
And you still don't know?
Call.
You were asked before the meeting and you still don't know?
I still don't know.
I
called. I mean, if we want that, we can have. I can go back to the bond council to gladly run run the numbers for me, what it would be if we just paid interest only for those 44 million, for, you know, how that would affect our tax rate. The other possibility is if we had really some other money sitting around that we didn't need, you know, we could, you know, pay it out of fund balances, you know, pay some of it out of fund balances and do these abatement like we talked about. But we already know that we're kind of getting tight on that anyway, so I wouldn't advise, you know, putting another strain on existing fund balances. That's just going to exacerbate that issue. So I wouldn't recommend doing that.
In other words, getting too close to the 180 days that we've
Yeah, I mean,
discussed.
you're going to get under that 80 days a lot quicker, and we don't want to do that. Avoid it. And we certainly don't want to get into situations where cash flows are so tight that we start talking about borrowing money in the spring. Because the school boards or school districts, cash flows are strange in the fact that we get all our money in the fall. June, September, we get all this money. So right now we are flush in cash. Then you get to April, and you're like, okay, you got to transfer this out of that investment, out of that. You know, everything matures because you're getting low, and so you got to manage that whole process. So it's very uncomfortable when you get to April and start talking about borrowing money. Are we enough? I've lived through that in other districts. And I just say that as a story, not because I expect it to happen here. I just, you know, we're nowhere close to that. But if we started pulling those fund balances too far, that's the ultimate, you know, problem with that is the cash flow problem. So yeah, we could run numbers about that. We could do that. The problem is, you know, we still have the 30-day. We have, you know, these notices. You know, we have to do things certain days, and so.
But we could, and we can approve as presented today, and then you could come to us ahead of the December 17th meeting with some sort of epiphany or different idea, and we could always back off of that number if we wanted to, but we have to stay at the same high water mark, because you can't go the other way. Come back from the.
Come down, we can issue less, but you know, we are issuing a thing to not to exceed number here.
Right.
So if we were to change our mind and decide we wanted to do it the other way, where we just accept the fact that rates are going to go up, our tax rate is going to go up a little bit, and I can tell you how much that is, would likely be,
sure.
You know, if Brian figured out tomorrow, but I didn't have a chance at that time today. So when I first heard this being an issue, it was already right before I came over here. So, but yeah, we would need approval to still do up to, and then if we decide, you know, we could pull the board, and if there was a consensus that we wanted to do something different.
Okay, other questions for?
Mike, I got a question for
Teresa.
you, and I'm fundamentally, I'll just tell you, fundamentally against extending, whether it's, and I think we all know this, whether it's your mortgage, whether you would do a 30 or 15, extend it to 30 to get that rate down. Your interest is very high, right? And I think I had that number, and I found that number today. And thank you for bringing that up, Nick. I agree. What is the impact if we would table this today and take a look at all those options that you're discussing now? Because I'd like to understand exactly the numbers, and I'll tell you, it was the 11th hour for me too. I was doing this at midnight, 1 o'clock last night, because I've been so busy, right, looking at these numbers, so I apologize for that. But is there a way that we can, what's the impact if we would hold off?
44 million, because we have these other bonds that have already been issued that are then going to be paid off with the new bonds. So I don't think it's advisable to do under the, you know, to table it completely, because we have to have these 30-day notices and everything.
It gets us out of sequence with the 30-day, with the 4 30-day notices. So we have to stay on track for that.
And I don't think you cannot do the 44 million because we've already
Right, committed to the school,
issued
right.
44 million. I guess, yeah,
Can we do the
it's
44
going to be a major mess, if you table it completely. And if we table the 18 million, or, reduce it to to just doing the 44 million originally, then that we could probably do without causing a problem. 44 million, I don't know, I could not do it and not cause a problem.
And I appreciate your expertise, and certainly Dr. Dearman, I know you guys, did the due diligence and review of this, but my concern is just, I know since I've been on the board, we haven't had an in-depth discussion about this item. Yes, it's the 11th hour, but the question is like, what is the number that the district's gonna be paying, over the long haul with, versus paying these bonds off now, and what does that look like in terms of, our present financial situation, and how urgent do decisions need to be made if we were to do something like that? I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of everyone here, but I think it's worth looking into personally, just to kind of get our head around it before we vote to approve.
Well, I think we should, okay, I didn't mean to jump on your statement there. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that. I was gonna get to that here in a second, sorry. No, that's all right. Jeremy usually is here to hit me, and Matt's being nice about that. No, I would say, Nick, though, to Mike's point is, any sort of, looking into this a little further, between now and December 17th, I think is great. And I think we should, and I think everyone should get as comfortable as we need them to. Hopefully there'll be at least 4 people comfortable enough that we're able to move this forward, because if we don't approve it tonight, it takes offline, maybe, perhaps, the timetable, which is very tight, for the new school. That's number 1. And number 2, whether it's extending these, or paying some with cash, or what's owed is owed. So however we address that, it would result in the absence of this, it would result in some sort of, maybe small and maybe short term, but it would result in increase in taxes. And I haven't had enough information to be able to go out and be supportive of either delaying the school project, or giving anyone a heads up that their taxes might be going up. So I'm comfortable that, we might get some more information ahead of the final vote on December 17th. And as I understood, because I got it clarified from you, we can come down from this number, 62.7 ahead of that meeting, but we can't go up to a different number. So we can't, it would probably make everyone comfortable to say, well, let's just approve the 44 tonight. But we can't do that, because if we approve just the 44, then it goes back to my one problem about, now we've just increased taxes. Maybe a small amount, and maybe for a short amount of time, but we didn't give anyone a heads up on that. And I'm not comfortable with that. I'm less comfortable about that.
I'll just interject my 2 cents. And especially the new board members haven't been here that long, but it was my understanding all along that we were extending those current bonds. So I don't really have any questions, but I understand the concern. And if we can move this forward, and then between now and the next meeting, address those legitimate concerns and see if there is an option for that additional dollar amount.
I can get additional scenarios for you easily. Bernardi is our bond counsel, and Chapman and Keller are the the attorneys on this, so I can easily I'll see both of them in Chicago over the weekend, so I'll talk to them tomorrow when we hear this, but we can get different scenarios. I know we have them, we've seen them over time, but I just don't have them in front of me right now, and I would want them updated anyway with new rates and new expected rates and stuff. So I can talk with them tomorrow and get you the two different scenarios and why we decided to do it the way we already did it, and what those rates would look like, or expected rates would look like.
I got another question, sorry. So, and maybe you don't know this and you can get us the numbers, but if we would do the 44 million, we would not always need to increase the tax rate, correct? I did talk to Dr. Dearman about this, and potentially, if we're gonna have 44 million, right, we're gonna do progressive payments on this school, so we're gonna be able to obtain some interest, right, or from the investments from this. I don't know if you've calculated what that will be on an annual basis, but, and maybe you know this, what that would be versus what that increase in the payment would be, and would those balance out at least for the first year? Where would we be with that? And we can always use reserves, from my understanding, to pay that difference. Because after the 5th year, those taxes are going to drop dramatically, right? If that tax rate, because our bonds are going to go way down, right? Shouldn't it will drop. I don't know how much it'll drop, but after that initial 5 years, that's where I'm coming from, right? We're going to see some, maybe it'll even out the first year. I don't know, with the interest that we'll receive because we're on progressive payments for that school.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know we are expecting about $5 million of expenses by June 30th on the new school.
Out of the 44 million?
Out of the 44 million, 5.5 million is what the payment schedule the construction people put together, tentative before bids and everything else. So tentative one we had, I think it was a little over 5 million, but like 5.5 million is what we were expecting to spend. I included $350,000 of interest in the budget, assuming we were going to get $350,000, and that was very, very conservative amount.
Right.
We got 44 million. We ended up getting it in October. I didn't know when we were going to sell, when I did the budget, so I assumed we were going to get it more mid-year, and then we were going to start paying down. So I put 350,000. Probably that's very light. We're getting 3.5% interest rates right about now for that kind of money. So, which is down from last year, but still strong. And so yeah, I know that's been calculated in these assumptions and stuff too. So
yeah, I'd just like to see the options and what those numbers look like. That's what I'm looking for. Just maybe there's a way to not incur all that interest by extending these bonds.
Any other questions or discussion on this? Tim, for the record, is opposed to any bond extension. He sent me a note today, and I told him I'd share that with him. Even though he's not here, I told him I would do that, so. Okay, roll call vote, Miranda.
Butterman.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Hall.
Aye.
Holzhauser.
No.
Tyra.
Aye.
Yeah.
No.
Nick, I'm sorry, I'm making a big deal about it. Did you say yes or no?
No.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would just, and I think, good questions, good discussion, but this kind of a big ticket item. I want to see these questions and some of this discussion. I'm all for public transparency, conversation at the table, but I'd like to have some communication ahead of time so we can, because we all want the answers, we all want the same, but I'm not comfortable with the maybe taxes will go up or maybe taxes won't go up. I need to be sure that taxes won't go up without notice to the constituents, and I don't have that without being able to move on this, so, thank you. Yeah, is there a motion to adjourn to closed session? Now remember, you have to pick from the categories. No one got to me ahead of time. I don't think we have to cover that. Anyone? No one wants to all just get in a room together now and talk more? Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the Human Resources Consent Agenda?
I move to approve the Human Resources Consent Agenda as presented.
Teresa? Is there a second?
Second.
Nick. Okay. Roll call vote.
Feldman,
Aye.
Hall,
Aye.
Olshauser,
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Young, Bergeron.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, Andrew, second.
I'll second.
Second, Youssef. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The time is 7:41. Thank you.
7:40.
So I think they're going. Andrew.
Sounds like we are.
Yeah, 14.